Hello everyone, I am Sammy, your devoted manga otaku, and welcome to my manga space. This is part 3 of 3 of my manga collection, and in this video I'll be touring my third bookcase. If you missed parts 1 or 2, I'll leave a card on the screen and link in the description so that you can check them out. And with that, I invite you to grab a coffee or other beverage of your choice, and let's talk manga. Starting from the bottom of bookshelf number 3, we have this very large stack of yaoi, mostly published by June. I bought most of these when I was a teenager. I was obsessed with yaoi back in the day, and I used to get my mom to buy these for me since you had to be 18 plus to buy them. Now, I'm not getting into the details of each of these volumes. Most of these are one-shots and short story collections, so it'd take way too long to go over them all. Instead, I'm going to insert a little montage of all the different books so you can take a look into them further if you are interested. And then we have volumes 1 through 3 of Cherry Magic, 30 Years of Virginity Can Make You a Wizard by Yu Toyota. I became interested in this series after learning the premise because it sounds absolutely ridiculous. Basically, it's about a 30-year-old virgin whose virginity grants him the ability to read people's thoughts when he touches them. One day, he discovers that his handsome coworker has a raging crush on him, and he's unsure how to handle the situation. I'm not sure what to expect from this, but it sounds super entertaining, and I think the art is really cute. And after that, we have an omnibus volume, which collects volumes 1 through 3 of The Walking Cat, A Cat's Eye View of the Zombie Apocalypse by Tomo Kitaoka. My cat Pumpkin actually gifted this book to me for my birthday, and this is about a young man who finds a cat in the zombie apocalypse, and I believe the story is told through the cat's perspective. I flipped through this a little, not too much though because I don't want to spoil anything, and it looks super violent and gory, and I plan on reading this a little later in the year, probably in August or maybe even around Halloween time. Moving on, we have the 3-in-1 deluxe edition of Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is probably Ito-sensei's most famous work and the only manga I own of his currently. This is a compelling and unique story about a town that's contaminated with spirals. I read this last year and found it very disturbing. The body horror illustrations will make your skin crawl. I will admit the last part of the book wasn't as good as the first, but it's a classic and is worth checking out, especially if you are a fan of cosmic horror. And then we have one of my favorite yaoi series, and that's volume 1 of Dick Fight Island by Raven Ike. This outrageous series is set in a world where men from different clans compete in a battle of endurance in order to decide their next king. The rules are simple. Whoever climaxes the fastest loses. I love this manga. It actually made my top 10 favorite manga of 2021 list. The artwork is beautiful and largely uncensored. The storytelling and world building are excellent. Plus, there are a surprising number of wholesome and romantic subplots. I feel like most people who enjoy yaoi will like this. It's very spicy, funny, and overall entertaining. Moving on, we have volume 1 of a manga that debuted fairly recently, and that's Imakoi Now I'm in Love by Ayoko Hata. I read this book just last month and I loved it. It's about a high school girl named Mizusawa who develops a crush on a boy after he heroically saves her from a pervert on the train. After confessing her feelings to him, the two begin dating despite knowing very little about each other. The storyline is fairly simple, but it's very sweet and the characters are really interesting and likable. I really liked watching the characters steal kisses when no one was watching. Literally adorable. This comes highly recommended from me, especially if you like couples who show affection for one another. Up next, we have another older shoujo series, and that's volumes 1 through 4 of Marupuri by Mitsuri Hino. This is written by the same mangaka as Vampire Knight and follows a girl who brings a mysterious child home after he emerges from a mirror, only to discover that he transforms into a 17-year-old boy whenever it's dark. I recall there being a lot of fantasy elements to this series, which isn't usually my jam, but I remember really enjoying the story and the beautiful artwork. I do plan on rereading this sometime in the future. And then we have Absolute Boyfriend, which is a 6-volume manga series by Yu Watase. This is a romantic comedy story following a girl who dates a robot who is programmed to be the perfect boyfriend. I've only read this series once because teenage me hated the ending of this manga. It's very bittersweet and emotional. I want to reread this though and see how well it's aged. Up next, we have the book The History of Hentai Manga by Kimi Rito. This isn't a manga, but instead a documentary that explores the origins of the hentai genre and how it's evolved. The book also includes explicit black and white illustrations and examples throughout. Now, I'm not sure when I'll get to this because it is a very meaty book. It looks very dense. But this sounds very fascinating and I look forward to learning more facts about hentai once I have some more time to read through it. And now we've sort of ventured into the graphic novel section of my bookcase, starting with The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. I read this with my kids last year and we had a really wonderful time with this fairy tale. Essentially, the narrative follows a prince named Sebastian who hires an aspiring fashion designer named Frances and asks her to sew him inventive dresses. Adopting a secret identity, Sebastian wears these fabulous designs as the Lady Crystalia and quickly becomes the hottest fashion icon in Paris. It's a heartwarming tale about friendship, love, acceptance, and gender identity, and I encourage anyone looking for an inspiring and uplifting story to read this. Also, the art in this book is very pretty. I love the muted jewel tones, I love the colors, the overall whimsical feel to the characters, and I really like the fashion designs as well. Moving on, we have volumes 1 and 2 of the ongoing graphic novel Heartstopper by Alice Osman. I believe this is a budding romance between two boys in high school, and I think there are 4 volumes released at the moment. I've heard that this is a really wholesome and sweet story. I really like the artwork. I think that it's adorable. I haven't read or collected any more volumes of this series because I accidentally ordered this hardcover by mistake, and I'm undecided on whether I should continue buying paperback editions or if I should continue buying these hardcover editions. Decisions. Up next, we have the 4 omnibus volumes of the graphic novel series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, story by Jean Luen Yang, and art by Guri Huru. These books follow Team Avatar on their adventures after the conclusion of the TV series. I'm a huge fan of the animated show, so I'm really looking forward to reading these, and I plan on buying the rest of the books at some point, as well as the Kyoshi Warrior novels. I am a bit disappointed that there is a misprint on these spines though, and they don't line up perfectly, and it sort of ruins the aesthetic of the series. And then we have the director's cut of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac by Hyonin Vasquez, which contains all 7 issues. This dark and demented book is about Johnny, a madman who kills people in order to keep a wall in his house covered in fresh blood, so that the monster behind the wall is contained. I really wanted to read this last year. I love the gory and violent artwork, but I forgot that it's a super dense story, and I just didn't have the time. I'm going to make some time for this series though later this year, probably around Halloween, but yeah, really looking forward to reading this one. The last book on this shelf is the creepy and mysterious manga, The Strange Tale of Panorama Island by Suhiro Maruo. Adapted from the pulp classic novel by Rampo Edogawa, the narrative follows a failed novelist who decides to abandon his average life in order to adopt the identity of a wealthy friend who recently passed away. With his late friend's fortunes and power under his control, he decides to build a utopia where even the wildest dreams can be realized. The artwork in this manga looks exquisite. I wish I could show you guys more, but it is very explicit. But overall, I'm very intrigued by the plot, and I'm probably gonna save this one for Halloween as well. On the next shelf, we have Candy Color Paradox, which is a 5-volume yaoi series by Isaku Natsume. This is an enemies to lovers type story about a reporter and a photographer who don't get along but are forced to work and spend time together during stakeouts. I had multiple people in my audience praise and recommend this series to me, and I'm very thankful to have found the complete series since some volumes were pretty hard to find. It sounds and looks very sweet, and I anticipate that I'll really enjoy this. And then we have one of my favorite shonen manga, and that's volumes 1 through 6 of Spy Family by Tetsuya Endo. This is a wholesome, action-packed story about an undercover spy needing to build a family for an important mission, and inadvertently ends up marrying a deadly assassin and adopting a telepathic child. I love everything about this series, and it's something I feel comfortable recommending to everyone, no matter their tastes. I highly recommend this if you enjoy narratives that explore wholesome family dynamics, secret missions, and hilarious scenarios. Also, Anya is the cutest character currently in fiction. You should read this for her appearances alone. Moving on, we have volumes 1 through 6 of the enemies to lovers story Love of Kill by Fee. The series follows a bounty hunter and an assassin who end up crossing paths during a hit, and one of them becomes utterly smitten by the other. I recently read this series, and it's pretty good so far. The story gets more interesting with every volume, and the male lead is so cool. I love his character so much. I highly recommend this to anyone who loves intriguing mysteries, violence, and a little bit of romance. Next up, we have a manga adapted from a novel by Rainbow Rowell, and that's Fangirl, with the story by Sam Meggs and art by Gabby Nam. Fangirl centers around a girl named Kath, who's in her freshman year of college with her identical twin sister Ren. After Ren admits to Kath that she wants space in order to become her own person, Kath starts feeling very isolated and throws herself into her fan fiction writing. This story started really strong. I found it relatable. The characters are fleshed out and it's beautifully illustrated. I'm really looking forward to the next installment coming out in June, and I'm crossing my fingers that it won't take another year for Volume 3 to release. And beside Fangirl, we have Volume 1 of the romantic drama series Blue Flag by Kato. I haven't read this yet because I'm trying to collect all 8 books first. Unfortunately, they are hard to find because this series is so popular and most of the volumes are still out of stock. I don't know too much about the storyline. I've been keeping myself in the dark on purpose, but I know it features a love quadrangle and has an unrequited love theme. This will be fairly high on my TBR list once I collect the rest of the series, just because I've heard so many wonderful things about it. After Blue Flag, we have the manhwa series Solo Leveling with story by Chagong and art by Dubu. Solo Leveling revolves around a hunter who works to feed his family despite being dubbed as the world's weakest. After fighting in a strange dungeon that kills most of his adventuring party, he's surprised that he not only survived, but has also gained some peculiar powers. I've heard a lot of incredible things about this series. The storyline, world building, and characters are all well written, and the art looks exceptional. It's completely full color, which is so cool. I'm really eager to read this one. Also, this is one of the few manga that my husband might actually be interested in reading as well. And then we have volumes 1 through 3 of the episodic comedy UNHAUL and Dewela by Kamome Shirahama. This manga follows the adventures of 2 frenemies, a demon and an angel, who both love fashion and enjoy getting into mischief. I've heard mixed reviews on the story itself, but everyone seems to agree that the artwork and designs are breathtaking. I haven't started this series yet, but I plan to read it soon. I really want to read Witch Hat Atelier, which is also by Shirahama-sensei, but I definitely want to read this one first. Moving on, we have Volume 1 of the seinen series, The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting by Sukiya. I don't know much about this book. I saw it floating around Instagram and I thought the cover looked really cute, so I bought it. From my understanding, it's a slice of life narrative about a Yakuza who's been ordered to babysit the boss's daughter. I anticipate this to be funny and adorable, and I can't wait to give this a shot. And then we have BL Metamorphosis, which is a 5-volume slice of life series by Kaori Surutani. The narrative centers around an intergenerational friendship between an elderly woman and a high school student who bond over their enjoyment of boys love manga. I haven't read this short series yet, but the premise sounds unique and the artwork is extremely charming. I have really high expectations for this manga. Up next, we have volumes 1 and 2 of the ongoing Yuri series, Donuts Under a Crescent Moon by Shio Yusuai. This is an office romance story about a woman struggling with self-esteem issues, depression, and her inability to fit into society's traditional social role of women. But after receiving encouraging advice from a female coworker, her perspective and feelings begin to change. The premise of this manga sounds relatable, and I really love the art style. It's beautiful and dreamy. Plus, this series has some fantastic reviews. I'm hoping I can start this soon and see why so many people enjoy it. The next manga is a one-shot volume called Sadako-san and Sadako-chan by Noriaki Sugihara. I haven't read this yet, but I believe this is a collection of short stories following the main character from the horror film The Ring and her journey to becoming a YouTuber. I plan on reading this or adding this to my TBR around the Halloween season, and despite it sounding creepy, it also sounds very cute and funny. After that, we have volumes 1 through 3 of the BL series, Manly Appetites Minagishi Loves Otsu by Mito. I've seen this described as being a very sweet and lighthearted manga about an office worker who adores his grumpy coworker and displays his affection through food. I really like the concept of this series. I think the artwork is adorable and the food looks delicious. I recently picked up the last volume and I'm looking forward to reading these books soon. Moving on, we have volume 1 of I Am a Cat Barista by Hiro Meijima. It's basically a series of vignettes about a mystical cafe that's staffed by a cat barista who offers advice while serving drinks that'll improve the lives of weary souls. I'm eager to try this one out. It sounds like the perfect thing to read when you want to decompress. Also, I love the character on the cover. I think this cat character looks so cute. And then we have My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness and its sequel, My Solo Exchange Diary, both by Nagata Kabi. I've only read the first volume, but this is an autobiographical series by Kabe Sensei, and it's about their life experiences and addresses important topics such as self-harm, eating disorders, anxiety, depression, and sexuality exploration. This memoir was raw, honest, blunt, and surprisingly relatable. I think everyone should read this manga as long as you're able to tolerate the subject matter. I will be reading these other volumes in the series once I'm in the right headspace, and I plan on collecting the rest of the series at some point. And then we have volumes 1 and 2 of the ongoing shonen series To Your Eternity by Yoshitoki Oima. I don't know much about this series except that it's an imaginative story following an otherworldly being that can transform into different things. I sort of bought these books on a whim. I'm not sure when I'll collect more because I have so many other series on the go right now, but if I like these volumes, I will collect the rest after some of my other series have wrapped up. This mangaka is also the writer and illustrator of A Silent Voice, which is one of the most popular manga series out there, so I'm very excited to read this. After that, we have volumes 1 and 2 of the ongoing series Lovesick Ellie by Fujimomo. This is definitely one of my favorite things I've read so far in 2022. The storyline follows a girl who posts wild fantasies about a boy she likes on her secret Twitter account under the pseudonym Lovesick Ellie. One day, she accidentally finds out her crush has a two-faced personality, and he discovers her secret Twitter account. But both parties agree to keep each other's secrets. The characters in this series are hilarious, and I love watching the leads interact with each other. They're both weirdos, and watching them together is adorable and super entertaining. I rated these volumes 5 stars, and if you like manga with authentic characters, beautiful art, and laugh out loud moments, I think you'll enjoy this. And then we have volumes 1 and 2 of the ongoing series Play It Cool Guys by Kokone Nata. This manga follows 4 guys who appear cool and calm at a glance, but they're actually very awkward and clumsy. I haven't read this yet, but the premise sounds cute, and I've seen multiple reviews calling it very wholesome and relatable. Also, I really like the full color illustrations in this. Hopefully I can get to this series soon. It sounds like the perfect stress reliever. Moving on, we have volumes 1 through 7 of the Josei series Night of the Ice by Yayoi Ogawa. This figure skating tale centers around a woman who's always putting her career second in order to help her childhood friend win skating competitions by casting a spell from his favorite magical girl anime. I read this and enjoyed the first 3 volumes of the series. The story and the characters are adorable, and the art is very on brand for Ogawa sensei. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this series, and even though I didn't really enjoy the figure skating elements, I thought that the characters and the romance made up for that. So I hope I can get to these other volumes in the next couple weeks. The second last manga on this shelf is Volume 1 of the seinen drama Blue Period by Tsubasa Yamaguchi. I haven't read this yet, and I'm not really sure what to expect, apart from it revolving around art somehow. I recently purchased volumes 2 through 5 because I've heard so many good things from the manga community and on Instagram. I'm hoping to dive into this series once I haul those other books. Last on this shelf, we have a new favorite shoujo of mine, and that's volumes 1 through 4 of A Sign of Affection by Sue Morishita. This super sugary and mature romance follows a girl with a hearing disability and a boy who wants to learn Japanese Sign Language in order to better understand and communicate with her. This ongoing series is one of the cutest, fluffiest things I've ever read. The romance is affectionate and the characters are endearing. I especially love the male lead. He's so respectful and considerate. If you enjoy shoujo or even josei series, I highly recommend you give this a try. This next shelf houses most of my manga that suffered the Tokyo Pop apocalypse and includes most of my unfinished collections. Dear manga publishers, if you ever want to pick these titles up, I would be forever grateful. The first manga on this shelf is the disturbing and dramatic series Life by Keiko Suinobu. This series is complete at 20 volumes, however, only 9 volumes were published in English. This is a very tragic and mature story following a high school girl who self-harms in order to cope and relieve stress. Despite enduring many hardships, including bullying, sexual abuse, and adult passiveness, she befriends people who give her the strength to stop self-harming and help her believe in herself. I recognize that this manga is melodramatic and depressing, but I really liked this series, and as a troubled teen, I found some of the situations relatable. I doubt it'll ever be reprinted by another publisher because of the triggering content, but I hope I'm able to read and collect the rest of the series someday. And then we have volumes 1 through 3 of the classic series Nana by Ayazawa. 21 volumes have been released so far, but the manga has been on hiatus since 2009 due to Yazawa sensei's health issues. This is an adult-orientated shoujo that follows 2 women named Nana who are both moving to Tokyo in order to follow their dreams. After meeting on the train, the women become roommates and end up becoming best friends despite being complete opposites. I read some of this series when I was a teenager, and I absolutely adored it. It covers a lot of mature themes and topics that really surprised me, and the artwork is gorgeous. Although this is an older series, volumes are still being printed and released, albeit very slowly. I've had the rest of this series ordered through Right Stuff for over a year now, and I'm just kicking myself for not collecting these when I was a teenager because they were wildly available. Moving on, we have volumes 1 through 7 of You're in My Secret by Ai Morinaga. I haven't read this in a long time, so I'm not sure if it's aged well, but I recall this being a hilarious body swap manga. Unfortunately, the last volume was never published in English, so that sucks, but that's one of the downsides of being a manga collector. Up next, we have volumes 1 through 12 of VB Rose by Banri Hidaka. VB Rose centers around a high school girl who's very talented at making accessories and purses, which lands her a part-time job in a bridal shop owned by 2 male dressmakers. I love the bridal theme in this series so much. Everything looks exquisite and the dress designs are phenomenal. It's a shame that this series is no longer being published because I adore it and I would love it if another publisher picked up the license. Also, I really love the gold accents on the covers of volumes 1 through 3. They are just so beautiful. And beside VB Rose, we have volumes 1 through 4 of the completed short series Millennium Snow by Bisco Hattori, which is the same mangaka as Ouran High School Host Club. The first 2 volumes look different from the omnibus sequel because they were released 10 years prior to the last 2 installments, which is very strange, but kind of cool. As for the story, it's a supernatural love story between a human girl who's dying of a congenital heart problem and a vampire who could, but refuses to give her 1,000 years of life. This series was confusing at times, and I disliked the ending, but overall it was okay. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I recommend you try borrowing this from your local library before buying it. And then we have volumes 1 through 8 of Dawn of the Arcana by Ray Toma. This series is completed at 13 volumes and centers around a princess who's forced into an arranged marriage with a neighboring kingdom in order to seal a peace treaty between both nations. I DNF'd this series years ago. I think the art is nice and it has good reviews, but I remember just not being invested in the story. But I do want to try rereading it again before I decide to unhaul it. And the last book on this shelf is Imadoki, which is a 5-volume rom-com series by Yu Watase. The story follows a country bumpkin who moves to the city and starts a gardening club at her school in order to make friends. This was a cute manga, and I liked that it includes some mature subjects, but I found it so cliche and unnecessarily dramatic at times. I rated it 2.5 stars. There's nothing really special about it, it's just okay. Moving on to the next shelf, we have volume 1 of the horror shoujo series, Limit by Keiko Suenobu. And Suenobu Sensei is also the author of Life, which I mentioned earlier. Now, I don't want to get into the details because the first book is very shocking, but basically, Limit is a survival horror manga with Lord of the Flies elements. I saw one reviewer describe it as Mean Girls meets Lord of the Flies, and I think that sums it up perfectly. I've only read the first volume, but I really liked it and decided to order the rest of the series through Right Stuff. So this manga, Steel Angel Kurumi by Keishaku, is actually the first physical manga I ever purchased, and I'm just keeping it for nostalgia purposes. It was a total flop purchase because I ordered volume 2 of the series. I was very flustered when I ordered this because I was ordering it through a catalog at a comic store, and the owner was getting so impatient with my indecisiveness, so I just sort of checked it off and paid the guy, and this is what I got. Also, I do not recommend you buy this series. It isn't that great. Okay, now for the rest of the books on these next 2 shelves, unless I state otherwise, they are going to be books that I'm unhauling in the future. I'm just going to list the titles. I'm not going to get into the details. I feel like this video is long enough as it is. I am planning on doing an unhaul video at some point, so I can give more information about these manga in that video. Volume 1 of Shiori's Diary, story and art by Suya Suya. Volume 1 through 9 of Ottoman by Aya Kano. I really wanted to like this series, but it was just too diabetes inducing. It's just way too sweet for my tastes. The concept is nice though. Volume 1 of Kilala Princess, story by Rika Tanaka and art by Naoko Kodaka. Volume 1 of Sakura Taisen by Oji Hiroi. Volume 1 of Welcome to the NHK, story by Takimoto Tatsuhiko and art by Oiwo Kendi. Volume 1 of No Matter How I Look at It, It's Your Guys' Fault, I'm Not Popular by Nico Tanigawa. Volume 1 of We Were There by Yuki Obata. Now, this one I might actually keep. The problem with this series is that I believe some volumes are out of print and therefore hard to find. It's extremely hard for me to find secondhand manga where I live, and I'm not aware of any manga thrift stores in Canada that are willing to mail manga, which is very unfortunate. Also, online stores like eBay have insane shipping prices, so that's not really an option for me either, but for now, I think I'll hold on to this volume. Volume 1 of Kimi Kiss by Taro Shinonome. Volume 1 of 3 in Love by Shioko Mizuki, Volume 1 of Kasumi, and this is written by Cert Lim and illustrated by Hirofumi Sugimoto, Volumes 1 and 2 of Kimi ni Todoki by Karuho Shina. I'm going to keep these books as well. I may or may not collect the rest of this series in the future. I know that the volumes are insanely hard to find, but I want to give this series another shot. So yeah, I'm going to keep these ones for now, and we'll see what I do in the future. Volume 1 through 4 of Pearl Pink by Mecha Tanaka. I missed showing off this book on the other side of my bookcase, but this is Only the Ring Knows, written by Satoru Kanagi and illustrated by Hotaru Hodogiri. I actually bought this thinking it was a manga, and it's actually a novel. So yeah. Volume 1 through 7 of Crossroad by Shioko Mizuki. Volume 1 through 8 of Gacha Gotcha by Yukata Takibana, or Tachibana. I really gotta look up the pronunciation of that name because I see it all the time and I'm pretty sure I mispronounce it all the time. Volumes 1 through 4 of Maharomatic Automatic Maiden, story by Bunjuro Nakayama and art by Bo Gaitama. And then we have Volume 8 of Perfect World by Ryaruga, and this is actually damaged. I'm willing to give this away for free to anybody who would like it, so yeah, if you'd like this, just let me know. Volume 1 of Golden Cane by Yu Asagiri, Volumes 1 and 2 of Mr. Mistress by Rize Shinba, Takumi-kun Series Volume 1 June Pride, story by Shinobu Goto and art by Kazumi Oya. Volumes 2 and 3 of Crescent Moon by Haruko Aida, Volume 23 of Inuyasha by Rumiko Takahashi, Volumes 1 and 3 of Triage X by Shoji Sato. These have very explicit covers, so I'm just going to keep them in the bookcase. Volume 5 of Honey So Sweet by Amu Meguro, Volume 3 of Me and My Brothers by Hari Tokino, Volume 3 of Missile Happy by Miki Kiratani, Volumes 1 through 8 of Yubisaki Milk Tea by Tomochika Miyano, Volumes 1 through 11 of Pastel by Toshihiko Kobayashi, Volumes 2 through 4 of AI Love You by Ken Akamatsu, Volumes 1 through 4 of Cherry Juice by Haruka Fukushima. And the last series in my collection, we have Volumes 1 through 5 of the capsule story arc of Gacha Gacha, and this is by Hiroyuki Tamakoshi. And that's my entire manga collection. This tour was super long, so if you've made it through all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. I'll probably try and release one of these videos yearly so that you guys can see all of the changes that I've made to my collection. Also, let me know if there's anything out of my unread manga that you'd like me to get to ASAP. I will take your guys' comments into consideration when choosing what I should read next. If you're interested in watching more videos from me, you can check out my end card where I'll have links to my most recent videos. I hope you all have a manga-nificent day, and I'll see you in my next